So, is there value in suffering? Well, that was a question very difficult to answer for me in July 2000. I'd brought my parents to Denver to look after them as their health and old age started taking over. And in July 2000, July the 20th, my father passed away in the nursing home. 18 hours later, my mother took her final breath also. This began a very difficult chapter in my family's history. It was as if my parents had left us a final gift and decided to depart this mortal plane in a very compressed period of time to compress survivor grief. Now, my dad has a little bit of Scottish blood, so he was always looking for bargains and opportunities. So you can imagine him gathering the family around a dining room table and then saying, "Kids, your mother and I decide we die on the same day." Now think of all the money that's going to save. Think about the fact that you're going to have one memorial service and have to pay only one pastor. Think about all the travel expenses that you're going to save. And I'll bet you, if you play your cards right, you'll get a discount on urns. Well, that aside, this was a difficult time where a thick fog enveloped me. For months, I was undermotivated. I was depressed. I couldn't concentrate. I was grieving. And that's exactly what happens. But one day, I had an epiphany. And that epiphany was I needed to get the heck out of Dodge. And the place that came to mind was Amsterdam, Holland. Amsterdam wasn't just a destination, it called to me. Joseph Campbell, the mythologist, called it a spiritual, mythic journey, a call to adventure. When my wife and I landed in Holland, about 15 minutes after we got off the train from the airport and beheld that magical city, something started to lift. And we completely immersed ourselves in Amsterdam. We walked the canals. We looked at the canals at night, lit up like Disneyland. We had marveled at the old world craft mixed with modern technology. We walked 10, 12 miles a day, sampling international cuisine. And we walked in the pathway of the masters. We went to Rembrandt's original painting studio, which was amazing. And then we beheld Night Watch, which is as big as that wall back there, his masterpiece in the Rijksmuseum, and understood really what a masterpiece is. And then we went to the Van Gogh Museum, where we looked at almost the entire collection of Vincent van Gogh. And we were spellbound. And that ignited my creativity. And my creativity then was expressed through photography. And I went around Amsterdam and I took photos of people. I took all kinds of images. I captured mothers on bicycles with their toddlers. I captured the Amsterdam people, the Dutch people being themselves. I captured all the places and the juxtaposition of activities. I must have taken 200 or 300 shots. And then I came back to the United States and I said, I have to do something with this. So I decided to create an exhibition. Now that was easier said than done. For those of you who remember back to the last century, this is how we took photos. This is called a piece of film. This little tiny piece of film, I decided to turn into digital posters. Again, that required taking the photographs, managing them in a program called Photoshop, digitally scanning them, converting them, taking them to a company that could digitally transform them, mounting them, framing them, and then eventually I decided to put these photos on display at a coffee shop in Washington Park called Stella's. 50 people showed up for the opening night. And then I got exactly the compensation I was looking for, which was to show my visual image of living and not suffering. So I took the photos of people and situations that I took in Amsterdam, such as this street scene that occurred right after a rain at sunset, or the master studio, Rembrandt. That is his original easel that he painted with. That's a bust of him. And I put them on display for over a month. I believe this, that I would not have made the decision to go to Amsterdam had I not been suffering. I would not have taken the effort it took to take the photographs, because I had to schlep around 2 cameras about that size, plus lenses and other paraphernalia, strobes and what have you. I would not have learned Photoshop and mastered it sufficiently to turn these little tiny pieces of celluloid into large digital files and then take those files to a photo provider. I would not have gone through all of that effort and then taken the creative risk to put my work on display to friends and family. We all know Sylvester Stallone. He created Rocky. And if you think about Rocky in the series, it really is about a man overcoming suffering, whether it's the death of Adrian, to the loss of his own self-esteem, to the loss of his physicality, to everything that happened to him. He said, out of their angst and out of their regrets, artists give us their best. So do writers. So do photographers. We all know the story of Helen Keller. Helen Keller was born healthy, but at 19 months, she lost all of her hearing and all of her sight. But yet she was the first totally deaf, totally blind person in history to get a baccalaureate degree. She then wrote 12 books, and she traveled all over the world lecturing. Can you imagine the kind of suffering she had to overcome? And she said, character cannot be developed in ease and quiet. Only through experience of trial and suffering can the soul be strengthened, ambition inspired, and success achieved. I learned that suffering can liberate the Creator, allowing us to experience life in a different way. Someday, you will lose somebody close to you, as I lost close to me, if you live long enough. And your journey will be your journey, as my journey was my journey. But think of this one point of this presentation, that if you look inward to the creative source, whether that be writing, painting, photography, whatever part of yourself you can tap into, you will also learn for yourself that you can overcome suffering through your own creativity.